Oh, hi there. What's up? Welcome to the latest retro. I'm Brian Drake. So we're taking a look today at a game called Steamrollers. Now, quick history lesson. Me growing up, before the Game Boy became a viable in-the-car option for entertainment, you either had your tape deck, your cassette player, or you had things like roll and write or write tabletop travel games. What does that mean? Well, there were a lot of things that were available to play with. There would be like magnetic checkers or magnetic chess, but there was also like these smaller versions of board games like Monopoly or Clue or whatever that you had a little scratch pad and you had to just take a pencil and you would maybe mark off this or that or whatever. Today, roll and write games and pencil games in general have changed so much to where roll and write is a very huge, just bursting genre. There are tons of great roll and write games out there. Today we're looking at a roll and write game that is very near and dear to my heart. A couple reasons. One, Stronghold Games. Call it a fanboy, call it a love of Stronghold Games. I just like what they do. Now, Stronghold is also in partnership with, Mark Garrett's and Benjamin Benito in this. First of all, look at that art. Love that. But let's talk about this for just a second about what Steamrollers is. You know my love of train games, right? You know how I love all sorts of train games. Well, this is a roll and write Steam type train game. So let's take a look at how it plays right now, and then we'll come back up and talk about what I thought of it. So let's talk components. First of all, you get a ton of these sheets. They are two-sided. They're identical front and back. You can also download more of these. There's a whole lot of them. I want to say it says there's, I don't know if it says or not, but there's a lot. The other thing is, I would recommend doing the old lamination technique and using dry erase for this because it's just ripe for that. So if you want to laminate a few and use dry erase markers, you could just whenever you run out of these, it won't ever be a problem. But these are the player sheets here. We'll talk about all that they do in just a minute. But right now you have the main board here. This is what everyone shares the items off of, the idea off of. Everyone's map is based on this. So the cubes are actually going to be out here. You'll never put the cubes on your board unless you have one of these special start tiles we'll talk about in a minute. But everything's shared out here. So it's kind of a game that happens in your mind, or at least on your own board, instead of all together on one board. This is just a representation of it. You have your dice here. These are the different actions you'll be able to do. You have your track tiles here, the types of tracks you can build each round. So you have the straights, the curves like that. That's a more of a 45-degree curve. You also have this side, which is a 45 and a 90. You have this side, which is a straight and a 90, and that's pretty much it, variations of those. You would roll this at the beginning of every round. So now on this round, you'll only be able to build 45s and 90s instead of doing any other kind of straight. You couldn't build a straight, so if you were hinging on a straight that turn, you might be up the creek. 3 sets of different tiles. These are an optional module right here. These are the special order tiles. You notice they're A and B because they're two-sided. These are basically just the first person to fill this special order will get these points. So it's things like 2 yellow and 2 green, 3 yellow. Sorry, that was a firework outside. It is June 8th. Not really sure why people are shooting fireworks off. Hate to point that out, but it's just weird to me. But hey, if that's you, do your thing. But preferably not like right outside my window. Anyway, old man complaints. These are just cool little special orders. It's just extra ways to add flavor to the game and add extra bonus points. That's what the special order tiles are. There are the start tiles, which give you certain powers to start the game with. Certain ones like increase your distance that you can deliver, your locomotive power by 1. Ignore the black dice and just build 1 track. This turn, at the very beginning, just build 1 piece of track. 2 victory points at the end of the game. Take one of these tiles that we'll show you in just a minute here. So these are kind of cool here. This one is the special order cube. It's a single special order. What you do is you take a cube of any color and you put it on one of these 3 to 4 player or 3 to 4 cities on your own paper, and then only you can deliver that good. So it's kind of a neat little perk. The last set of tiles are these tiles that are used for the game. These are your action tiles, and the way these work, these are some of the things you can do. Not that one, that's for the solo game. You see that symbol's for solo. These are some of the things you can do with the dice, and we'll talk about what they do right now. Let's just kind of look through them and see. So here we go. 1A and 1B are the same. They will basically allow you to change your white die to any value. So Number 2, 2A and 2B. 2A is the player may take 2 white dice and perform 1 action with each. In this case, there won't be a leftover die at the end of the round, so it just gives you an extra action. 2B, on the other hand, you play this tile right after another player chooses a die, and they must give you that die and choose another one. Other players cannot pick that die, and you have to use that die on your turn. So you have to kind of play it early before you can, you had to get use out of it. 3A is when delivering goods, the player may use the white die as the destination delivery instead of the source. So I'll talk about that in just a minute when it comes to delivering and all those sorts of actions. 3B is when making a delivery, the delivery distance gets a +1 or +2 as if 1 or 2 more city towns are crossed, but you still have to have the engines to do that. 4 is you can deliver no matter how far away it is. With this one, this is 4A. When making the delivery action, the player can make a delivery of unlimited distance. So that's kind of cool. You still can't pass through the same city twice, all that sort of stuff. B is I think it just means that the strength of the player's engine is raised by 1 as long as you have this tile in front of you. 5 is you can take plus or minus 1 to the roll. B on that is the player must re-roll the white die, or may re-roll or flip it to its opposite side. I suppose that's obvious. 6 is you ignore the black dice. Or black die, and then that's what the back is on either. At the end of this game, these are worth the points listed on them. So if you have this sitting in front of you, it's worth -2 victory points, whereas some of these are worth 1 victory points or 0 victory points. That's what the tiles do. Let's talk about the other actions you can do on your turn right now. So to start the game, you'll take the amount of dice of the players +1. So in a 2-person game, you'll take 3 dice. Obviously, more dice for more people. You then will roll everything here. Now, these dice determine which actions you can take. They determine, if these action tiles are available, you can take whichever action tile is in fact available. Sorry, again, don't look at that solo one, but look at these right here. This would determine which action tile you could take based on these. You could have the 5, the 2, or the 5 again, obviously. Only one person can take that action, but also you can build track. The white die determines in which region the player must draw. So if I was going to take the 5 here, I could then only draw tracks down here in this blue region. So this is a straight and a 90 currently in this turn. So I could come out of this area with a straight piece of track, and I'll draw it in right here. You can draw it however you want. That's the beauty of it. You can do little tracks like that, or you can color them in, whatever. Or I could have done a 90, or I can do a 90 off this, which means that I could then draw like this into here for a different action later. You wouldn't be able to do 2, but that's what that means, is you can draw in the area the dice is used. So if I took the 5, I could draw it here. And then you have to draw based on what the black dice shows. That is the how you draw tracks action. Couple of other important things about drawing tracks. You can never draw into a track more than once, so there is no crisscrossing in this game. But think about it, you're not playing against other people's tracks, so you'll never have to worry about being blocked by someone else's tracks because everybody has their own individual board. The other note is that they do not have to form one single connected thing. So let's just say I had drawn this before, the straight here, but there's not a 45 to get me into here, like a 345, that you would need. You would need a 3 and a 45 to be shown on this dice. Well, then I could go over here on a different turn, and let's just say draw in 2 and draw a 90 out of here if I wanted to. They do not have to be connected. You can always just draw wherever you want based on the dice that are there. It doesn't matter that your routes are connected. So that's what it means as far as drawing tracks. So now let's talk about delivering goods. You'll notice that the dice that are out there, you pick the 5, for instance. The dice that you pick is the source city for the good you're delivering. So if you picked 5, you would then look out here and you would see that there are 2 grays, a green, and a yellow that are available in 5. Now what you would do is you would have to look into your map that you have. And let's just say I want to deliver a gray. Well, I would have had a track connecting obviously to a gray city. Well, this is only one link, just like if you played Steam or Railways of the World. When I move the gray good from its source, right, that's what the number's for. So there's a gray good in 5, that's the source. I would then move it essentially along my route into here. Well, that's only one link, that's 1 point. I would tick off this mark over here that I made 1 link is what that is. Now, you would also mark off things over here for, connecting to cities. That's these actual dice cities together. So I would have that connected because I did that. You can also make links through these black dots. Now when you do it, you have to draw through the actual city. So in order to do that, you would have to go 1, 2, 3 actions basically to get drawn through that city. But when you do, and let's just say I made that same delivery this way instead, 1, 2, it would be worth 2 points because it's the amount of links that you make. However, your train has to be high enough to go that far. So currently you can only move it 1 space. The other action you can take would be to improve your engine. So let's just say you take the 5, you would cross off the 5 up here instead of doing any of the other actions to make your train faster. It doesn't matter, you don't have to do an order, you just have to take off a dice that you haven't already checked off. So let's say I've already taken the 5, well then I could have taken the 2 instead. Well now my train can go 1, 2, 3 spaces away. So in order to deliver this, this is 1 good, or 1 link, 2 links. That's worth 2 victory points. I would then get 2 victory points instead of just the 1. That's how you gain points. You will draw these tracks out. You'll get credit for each of these kind of links that you make, but you'll also get credit every time you deliver good per link that you do it. So you don't actually want the shortest route between cities. You actually want the most convoluted route between cities, as long as you can make sure you can make it based on your engine, because there's nothing worse than having a great good to transfer, let's say from here to here, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, oh crap, I can only deliver 3 spaces. Well then you have to wait and hope that that good is still there when the other person delivers it, when the other person goes, that they've left that good for you. So that's one kind of tricky thing to note. You tally up all your points at the end of the game, you know, if you have any minuses from those tiles over there, and you add up the points and see who's the winner. That's really it. I know it's hard to explain that concept sometimes, even when you're teaching Steam, or when you're teaching Railways of the World, or when you're teaching Steamrollers, that it's every one of these links is a point when you make a delivery. So again, just to clarify, if I'm delivering a good from up here, a yellow good, let's just say over to 1, you have to deliver a good to its source colored city. So it has to go to the 1 city. Now it can pass through these towns, no problem, but in order to stop and get the points, it has to stop at this place here. So on my town, I would like to have something like this, if I could, you know, ideally something like this. So now it's 1, 2, 3 points for making the delivery of this yellow good to here. When you deliver it, you pull it off the board, and then you keep playing until I believe it's 3 cities are totally empty. Whenever 3 cities are empty, the end of the game triggers, and you keep track of the points. Let's just read the end of the game just to make sure. The game ends at the end of the supply, or when 3 or more cities in the supply board are depleted. You total the points of the game by marking the deliveries during the game. You also score points for the rail network. That's this part down here. You gain points respectively for upgrading your engine. It's, you know, what it's listed as down here. Then you also get points for those tiles like I mentioned, and then the person with the most points wins the game. That's how the game is played. It's pretty simple, but there's a little bit of a learning curve to get all this stuff down, but it's a really neat concept of making a train game into a roll and write, considering it's all here. You're not sacrificing anything except those tile tokens, and that's it. And the interaction between players of blocking each other. That's the only thing you're sacrificing, are those 2 things. But the interaction instead comes from these tiles. Now, one thing I forgot to mention was that these tiles, when you take it, let's just say I took the 5. Well, this would come out to me sideways. Well, in the refresh phase, this flips up. So let's just say that these are the dice that are out here now, and this person has this tile. So they have the number 5 tile. Well, if it comes to me and I want that tile, I say, boom, I'm taking number 5. I want this tile from you. It comes to me at a 90-degree angle. When the refresh phase happens and it flips back up, it's now vulnerable to be taken again. So you want to use its action before it gets taken from you. Really cool concept. Medium and hard modes are just kind of randomized map additions, like they add mountains that can't be crossed over, so you would fill these in on your board to make the game a little bit harder. So you see the different options here. So there are 12 different maps, both medium and hard, but it's cool because it helps you to just make the game fresh each time you play. So that's it. That's how you play the game right there, right? You're rolling the dice, or you're using the dice as actions. You're writing down and drawing your routes out instead of taking the tiles. Let's talk about a few mechanics here that really just make sense. First of all, I love Steam. I love Railways of the World. One of the hardest parts about Steam and Railways of the World, though, is the whole well, is this the right tile? Or what about this tile? No, what's on the back of this tile? Maybe this is it. Do I have a Y-shaped connection here? This has been simplified down until you take a pen, you draw your route, but you don't just get to willy-nilly draw your route, you get to draw your route based on what the dice shows. And there are always two options, which I really like that there are always two options, so you're not just stuck going, well, I can't do the route I need. Now that being said, there will be some turns where you just cannot get the route drawn that you need, which forces you to go elsewhere and kind of expand your network out, and I really like that. I like the concept of just rolling right when it comes to a train game. It makes sense. It works. Like, it doesn't feel simplified or cheapened or dumbed down. You know, not saying that that's what roll and rights are, but sometimes they are. Sometimes a travel version of a game is it's done roll and write style just to make it simpler or smaller. Now, another good example of this would be the Castles of Burgundy roll and write game, which is a fantastic game, and it's better than the card game. And to me, I actually like it better than the original. But that being said, Steamrollers does a fantastic job of making that Steam, Railways of the World, you know, all those types of games where you build a route and you take a cube from here to here to here to here, and how many links you go is how many points you get for that link. And I think they do a fantastic job of translating it into a roll and write, into a much smaller game. The board just doesn't take that much up of your table. I also like the variability. There's the variable setup where you play the hard map, where each of you draw individual mountain ranges shutting off certain particular routes. There's medium tile games. There's all these different tiles over here, which are special order tiles where you have to fill these orders. There are special tiles to start the game with, you know. It's just a really well-made game when it comes to all the different options you have. So thumbs up for me from Steamrollers. I love the art. I think the art style is great. Just this is just fun. It reminds me, there was a Time Stories, I don't know if it was a Time Stories game or one of the cards that's showing upcoming Time Stories games, that I really like this art style. So if you like train games, and this plays solo, by the way, if you like train games, this is a really good one to get you into it, because it doesn't just eat up your table. It doesn't take that much time or consumption of that. There's not a lot to this when it comes to components. Size-wise, it's very small and it plays small. Plus, it's a small box. But it is a full-fledged train game. It's got all the feel of playing a full-fledged train game, buried down or bored down or condensed down into this roll and write. So I think you should go check out Steamrollers if you're a train fan. If you're not a train fan, obviously this is a pass for you. But don't let any of the writing, don't let any of the rolling or any of that stuff dissuade you if you're like, I don't know how I feel about roll and writes. This is a great game, and it's really fun. And it's just quality. It's quality for what it is. It's not anything that's cheap. All the tiles and tokens are really well made. It's done right, and it's brilliant. I don't know why anybody just hasn't thought of this yet. And maybe they have, and I'm just naive, but this is a good way to do a train game by doing the roll and write. So again, I'm Brian Drake here on the latest retro on the Dice Tower. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. If you want to follow our Patreon, check out what we do over at the latest retro, or check out patreon.com/the-latest-retro to find out more, and throw some support towards us if you want to. If you don't want to, no problem at all. We love just doing this. It's just fun. Thank you for watching. Add suggestions in the comments of what you'd like to see coming up. I'd love to hear from you, kind of know what games you'd like to see reviewed. Till next time, we'll see you.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.